Good evening. Welcome, everyone, to the 2021 Ambler Award Ceremony. Usually this is an award and a dinner, so I apologize that we don't have a dinner, but we're going to have really great to-go desserts on your way out on a table, so grab them on your way to go. In typical COVID fashion, I just remind everybody to space yourselves out. We want to have everybody together, but yet a little bit spaced. And we're so excited to have everyone together tonight in person and not virtually. So thank you all for joining us to celebrate this award. At the time, I'd like to ask everybody for a moment of silence. All right. Tonight, we have the opportunity to not only honor our award winner, top scholar athlete in the class of 21, Joe Weisberg, as well as the 15 runners-up who represent the dual excellence of the over 100-plus senior scholar athletes, but also Bill Ambler, for whom this award is named. This is one of, if not the most prestigious award bestowed by the athletic department in any given year, and a deep source of pride for those coaches who are able to attend because you have been honored. Just a summary of achievements so you get an idea of how amazing this class is. We have 14 different teams represented tonight, 13 different majors, 12 different minors, 4 concentrations, 12 different states, and 1 representative from Japan. We have 69 Centennial Conference Academic Honor Roll awardees, 6 All-Centennial Conference honors, 7 Player of the Week honors. For these student athletes represented tonight, we have had 14 NCAA National Championship appearances. Men's cross country 3 times, men's indoor track and field 3 times, men's outdoor track and field 2 times, women's cross country 2 times, women's outdoor track and field 2 times, men's soccer 1 time, and women's soccer 1 time. Every single person here has competed in a postseason event at least once. Men's cross country won 2 Centennial Conference championships in 2017 and 2018. Men's soccer won a Centennial Conference championship in 2018, and cricket won the 2018 Philadelphia Intercollegiate Championship. 11 of the 16 recipients tonight are team captains. This is a phenomenal group of scholar athletes at an institution that values and excels both at academics and athletics. This is over the top. Congratulations to all of you. In addition to recognizing the many achievements of this year's scholar athletes, we acknowledge Bill Ambler, whose own academic and athletic accomplishments provided the perfect namesake for this award. I am especially grateful to Bill Ambler because he signed my admission letter to Haverford many years ago, and he is a critical reason why Haverford went co-ed. So if some of you don't know, Haverford used to be a single-sex men's institution. And for many years, they talked about whether or not Haverford College should become a co-ed institution. President Coleman appointed a commission on women headed by the Director of Admissions, Bill Ambler, and that commission produced a 10,000-word report in late 1970, looking at the benefits, cost-benefit analysis of full coeducation or by cooperation with Bryn Mawr College. The response to the report was slow and a little ambivalent. In 1971, the board adopted a faculty recommendation banning additional women degree candidates. They said Haverford College was to build a coeducational environment through expanded cooperation with Bryn Mawr College. Attitudes then began to shift as this became a more prevalent conversation. And in '71, divisions with the community became more apparent. The Director of Admissions, Bill Ambler, long felt that coeducation would be beneficial to Haverford, was necessary for expansion, was morally required, and would attract many women. In 1976, the board announced its decision to admit women as transfer students only. And in doing so, they actually recognized that the decision would not satisfy those with extreme views on either side. And remember, Bill Ambler was still a consistent champion of full co-education. So as the story goes, back in the day, there was a committee on admissions. I think that still exists today. And the director of admissions would bring in a number of applicants from the prior class to give a sense to this committee the difficulty that they had in choosing who in the next class, all the amazing candidates, and what the process was like, so everyone would learn from that. And so they were sitting in this meeting, and Bill Ambler handed out a number of the different applicants from the prior year, and the committee was going through it, and this one, certainly this one didn't get in, and he was like, yes, we did not admit that individual. And there was another one that they discussed for a long time and couldn't quite decide, and the director said, no, we did not admit that person either, and this was somebody that had a really stellar resume. And then they looked at someone, and this person was the valedictorian of their class, was a 3-sport athlete, played an instrument, had great testing scores, and was involved in a lot of community service. And like, oh, this is a slam dunk. And Bill Ambler took a deep breath, and he looked around the room, and he said, no, we rejected her. And as the story goes, that had a huge impact, and conversations moved quickly. And in 1979, the board agreed to make the college fully coeducational beginning September 1980. So Bill Ambler had a significant role for the women who are here tonight. His legacy is passed down to all of you, and he was an exemplary student athlete. At this time, I want to recognize the 15 Ambler Scholar athletes this year. They have prepared the answer to 3 questions. What is your thesis topic? What is your favorite Haverford College athletic memory? And what are your future plans in the near or distant future? Now, this is supposed to be a really fun evening for everyone. Okay, first of all, we're here in person, so that should make it fun to begin with. We're here as a group, we're here as a community. And our student athletes that are here have excelled both academically and athletically. That's why they're here. So they've worked really hard for their 4 years at Haverford College. They probably also worked really hard in high school to get to where they are at Haverford. So this is supposed to be fun. It's not stressful. So sometimes knowing what you're going to do or not knowing what you're going to do can be a little stressful. So I've told all of them, if they don't have plans and that's making them a little comfortable, this is a fun night. Make it up. Be creative. You can have pretend future plans. You can have real future plans. This is not supposed to be a source of stress. So whatever you want to do, that's fine. It is being streamed. So if you're wondering if your parents are watching and wondering what you're going to do next, makes it a really good one. All right? So we're going to start alphabetically. So we're going to start over the track and field table. I'm going to pass this around, and we have a nice COVID-friendly wet wipe. So I'll give it to you to answer the 3 questions, and then you can pass it the next. It's in alphabetical order in your program. So you were ready to. There you go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nathan Ackerhelm, math major. For my thesis, I did a statistical analysis on college football data to build a model that determines which teams are more likely to cover a point spread in a given game. So, I was hoping it allowed me to pass Haverford, and maybe I can test it out once I'm no longer an NCAA athlete and put some money down on a game or something. After graduation, I'm going to be moving to Charlotte, North Carolina, and working with Bank of America as a technology analyst. So for my favorite moments, I couldn't narrow it down to a single, so I've got 2. The first one occurred on the track in rustic Westchester, Pennsylvania. Did my sophomore year. I was running the 1,500 meter race, so it's 3 3/4 lap. And I remember I came through the first lap right on the pace I was trying to aim. And I think I was in like 9th in the heat. And my assistant coach looked at me and he says, "You're going to win." I was like, I didn't know what to make. I was just focused on, just trying to move up, keeping the pace I was going. So I go along, I get to about 500 meters left, and I kind of look around the curve, further and down the straight, and I only see 2 people ahead of me. I was like, all right, I can do this. And then we get to the 400 meters to go, and someone's like ringing a bell saying last lap, and all the guys on our team who weren't racing that event were kind of cheering me on. So I get to the 400, I pass the person who was in second, and then I get to like about 200 meters to go, and that same coach, he goes, all right, one move and go, and I get around the last guy and finished and won the heat. So that was a cool moment. And like, you know, I think there were three heats that day. I was in the third heat. You know, it wasn't the fastest heat, but it was just a really, really cool moment. And my second moment occurred actually in the field house right before practice one day. This had to be about like December of my freshman year, and it was indoor track season, so we always meet in the field house for a few minutes before Tom sends us on our run. And that day, Tom had gone down into Philly to the pen to talk to his cancer doctors. And he was telling us, you know, 12 months before they diagnosed him with, I can't remember, stage 3 or 4 cancer, but, you know, that's not good. And, you know, they told him you might only have a year to live. And, you know, he was telling us, he was reflecting on what he would do with those 12 months. And, of course, travel and spend time with family. But besides that, like, this is what he wanted to do, coaching us. And, I mean, I think like love and family, those are two terms thrown around in sports culture a lot nowadays. But I mean, with this group, it's so real, so authentic, not forced at all. And just what a special group to be around. And then he goes on to tell us that, you know, he saw the doctor that day and they did all the tests, and they told him the cancer looked like it was gone. And, you know, at this point, you know, he was having a hard time keeping it together. I remember just pointing to the door, like, go run. And we all just kind of thanked him, and then we were outside just, like, looking around at each other, like, oh, my gosh, you know. And I remember it was, like, it was snowing, getting a little dark out, and just, like, so quiet. Just so that I'm never going to forget that moment. And just, you know, that was pretty early on in my time here, and just realizing like what a gift it was to be a part of this team. And so it's just been such an incredible experience, and very, very grateful for all the people who've played a part in my journey here. So.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mally. I did my thesis in biology looking at specific amino acid transporter proteins and seeing if they were regulated by this specific RNA binding protein and studying whether the pathway of their regulation was conserved from human models to mouse models. And surprisingly, we found that it might be, which is like a pretty exciting discovery in biology, even if it's possibly not true. And after graduating, I'll be moving to St. Louis to work as a research technician for 2 years at WashU School of Medicine while I'm applying to medical school. So that'll be fun because I'm from Brooklyn, so I'm going to the Midwest. And my favorite memory at Haverford, this is a little bit of a plot twist, but after 10 years of training and competing as a runner, it turns out that my most memorable athletic moment at Haverford was on the tennis court. During the most isolating moments of the pandemic, I picked up a tennis racket and almost immediately found what was missing in my life. In the spring, I asked Coach Taft if he would take me on as a graduating senior, and to my surprise, he said yes. And the highlight moment of my athletic career at Haverford happened at Bryn Mawr about a month ago. I was, to my astonishment, playing 6 singles and a bonus exhibition match, and I won both matches, which was an experience I never got to have as a runner. And all that time I was doing that, wearing the red tennis skirt next to all my teammates. And that was an experience I never pictured myself having, and one that I know that I'll never forget. So I'm very appreciative to Coach Taft and the athletic department for allowing me to have that experience, and I know I'll have that with me forever.
I'll go here, maybe angle myself. So I'm Isabel, and I'm a political science major and Spanish minor. My thesis was on the DREAM Act, which allows undocumented youth who came to the U.S. as children to remain in the U.S. And have a pathway to citizenship. And my study was looking at, from a political science perspective, this DREAM Act seemed to have a lot going for it. It had this really strong social movement, it had public support, and yet has continued to fail in the legislative realm. So I was looking at why that has happened, what's happening in the movement, in the policy sphere, tribute to that, and then I offer some solutions for how it could move forward with the current administration. And I will be going to New York to work as a paralegal at Sullivan and Cromwell, which is a big firm there. They also do have a strong asylum program, so may try to get involved there and link it back to my research in undergrad. And my favorite memory at Haverford, it's actually not on the field, although plenty of awesome moments there as well. Shout out to TC&J, legendary win sophomore year. But my favorite memory is definitely playing water tag as a sophomore. For those who don't know, water tag is a full campus event, essentially assassin, so everybody's assigned a mark. You just have to get them with water at some point outside of an academic building. And it's really an adrenaline rush. And I was a target at some point and had a lot of people trying to get me. And my team really rallied around me in those 2 weeks that I was sort of being chased around campus trying to get splashed with water. I remember some highlights, Julia Pascarella. It's kind of the mastermind of it. I was in class, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get outside this building. I had like 5 men's soccer players waiting to splash me with water. And Julie goes, hey, when you're done with class, just knock 3 times on the bathroom door. And I was like, okay. So I knocked 3 times, and I opened the door, and half of my team is squashed into a single-cell room, all in matching Wayne, that's my high school, all in matching Haverford jackets, ready to make some decoy ploy to get me out of the building into safety. And I think what made that so fun is that it was a combination of not only our teamwork, but also our love for competition and humor. And when we didn't have lacrosse this year competitively, I think that's when humor and creativity and having each other's backs really shone through. So even though that's a sophomore energy, it's that spirit in our team that made this year so special for me. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Ethan Donlin. I majored in physics, and I did my thesis on kind of like organic nanowires, and specifically I made a different type of microscope that's now in the Kinsk, which is going to be used hopefully to test a theory that we apply to those little rods. So next year I'm doing the 4+1 with UPenn, so I'll be just around the corner. After that, we'll have to see if anyone hires me. In terms of my favorite memories from Haverford lacrosse, it would have to be sophomore year. When we played Dickinson, coach finally let me get in there, and he goes, hey, Ethan, you can stay in there if you play well. Otherwise, this is the second half, the other guy's going in. And I get in there, and they score 4 goals right away. And I was like, uh-oh, this isn't going too well. Luckily, they kind of started hitting me with the ball and started making some saves. And I got to stay in there. And then, of course, my favorite memory is, as a goalie, you really don't get as much of the glory because that goes to the O guys that can score. And the best part, though, about being the goalie is at the end of the game, everyone runs down to you and celebrates. So that's my best memory, was at the end of the game, everyone coming in for my first time getting to play, which was really awesome.
Hi, I'm Sadie. I'm on the women's soccer team, and I'm an anthro major. I wrote my thesis on women's soccer in Jordan, so I really tied soccer into like everything I did. So I studied the 2016 U17 Women's World Cup and the FIFA hijab ban, and talked to 6 Jordanian women who were involved in some way, and so looked at their perceptions of those 2 events and just really dug in deep into Orientalism and all things having to do with how women in the Middle East are perceived and kind of how they are empowered. So my future plan is I'm moving to Washington, D.C., and I'm planning to coach youth soccer. And then I'll see if I find some other job in like refugee or immigration work, but that remains to be seen. My favorite memory was hard to pick, but I went way back to one of my first memories on the Haverford women's soccer team, which was my first win on Walton. It was our second game. I had scored in the first game, which was also a pretty amazing memory, but we'd lost the game. And so game 2, like I was riding high on having scored my first game, and I just launched this ball. Like, I don't think coach was probably happy with me taking the shot, but by some miracle, it landed in the back of the net. And I just remember my teammates just like crowding me, and just the hype and the energy was something that I had never felt before from teammates. And that's the kind of energy that my teammates bring to every moment, whether it's like a pass in practice, that's just beautiful. And so that kind of energy is what carried me through that season and the next couple seasons that I got to play. So that was kind of my top memory, but as Mallory was speaking, I realized I couldn't be here and not talk about my short stint on the track team. So I picked up throwing, which I'd never done before, and so I just wanted to acknowledge how awesome that experience was to get to do that at Haverford when I'd lost my senior season, to have, even though it was just an inter-squad meet, I'm now on the top 10 hammer board because, don't tell anyone, but there were only like 5 people on it before. But regardless, that is kind of my legacy at Haverford now, so I'm happy to have that.
I'm Jack Vanikos. I'm a classics major. I wrote my thesis on Thucydides' critique of democracy during the Sicilian expedition in the Peloponnesian War, and specifically how sort of the democratic influence can corrupt even the most capable military leader into making very rash decisions. And in the fall, I'm going to pursue classics further and go to the University of Colorado at Boulder for grad school. And my favorite memory from Haverford athletics was probably in the winter of last year. There was an indoor meet. It was a very small meet, and I ran the 3K with just two other people, Steve Gahn, who was a senior at the time, and Quinneman, who was a freshman. He's a sophomore now. And we were going along quite well. I was feeling very good. And probably in the last 600, Quinneman sort of started to fall off the pace, and I was feeling good, so I went past him. And I was feeling quite good, and I went past Steve. And as it turns out, they were feeling much better than I was because they flew by me in the last 100 meters. But even so, it was a great race, and I was pleased with my time, and I was happy to see that the people passing me were at least my teammates. So they did quite well also.
I'm Jonathan Frost. I'm a physics major on the men's lacrosse team. My thesis topic was the compact modeling of ferroelectric diodes for use in in-memory computing, which was just building a computer model for this electronic device that sort of acts the same way that the neurons in your brain operate, to use for stuff like machine learning. After graduation, I'll be moving to New York City to be an investment banking analyst at JP Morgan. And then my favorite Haverford sports memory was the same year as Ethan's, but a different game. It was when we played the number 10 ranked Ursinus Bears. I'd broken my collarbone that season, so this was only my second game back. First game doesn't count because we lost by a lot, so this was really my first game back. And something that makes that really special for me was that I think Ursinus had two of the best attacks in the conference and probably the whole country. So just being able to go out there, play defense with my closest friends, have Ethan and Ned, and sort of shut that attack unit down and get another top 10 ranked win was something that was really special for me. So that was good stuff.
Hi, my name's Molly. I'm on the women's cross country and track and field teams. So I wrote my thesis I looked at prosperity thought theology, which is a certain Christian theology, and its impact on the structure of faith-based Christian social services organizations that specifically work with people who are experiencing homelessness or have experienced homelessness. Next year, I'll be attending UPenn in their Masters of Social Work program, so I'm excited for that. And I'll share a couple of memories. One of my favorite memories on the track was my sophomore year Centennial Conference Championships. I was in the 4x800 meter relay, and the week before conferences, go figure, I got the flu. And I was really unsure if I was going to run in this meet. I kept going back and forth with the captains at the time, Julia and Sophie and Riz, but Riz really wanted me to run. He was like, you can do it, like 1 race, 4 laps. And I was like, okay, I have to do this. And I was kind of on this medication for it called Tamiflu, but every time I would try and run in practice on this Tamiflu, I felt like so whacked out. And this was the thing that was supposed to take the flu away. So I decided to go off the medication and just like try and run the race kind of like with the flu. And it wasn't a PR, but it was like decent for having the flu. And, kept the relay together. And I think I got to hand the baton off to Mally, if I remember correctly. So that was pretty cool, the race with the flu. And then off the track, I remember the end of my freshman year, a few of my teammates and we decided to run 5 miles on the trail at like 1 a.m., like the night before I left to go home. And that was just such like an exhilarating feeling, and I felt like so connected to my teammates and like so in love with the world. Like, it was wonderful. So yeah, those are mine.
Hey everyone, my name's Jacob. I'm a physics major. My thesis, I investigated the motion of locusts, so those big swarms of like grasshoppers, and I got a bunch of videos of them and then tried to figure out how they move and why they move how they do. Next year, I am moving to Madison, Wisconsin to work at a healthcare software company. And my favorite athletic memory, I guess, it's probably from I guess it's 2 years ago now at our very last meet at Swarthmore. And I was able to run a good time. I ran a PR, which was nice. But I think what I liked the most was just being able to hang out with all my friends afterwards, because it's at night and we go and we get hoagies and hang out. And it's the last time we're kind of hanging out all as a team and with the seniors for that year. And so I think just that aspect of the sport, like Nathan had mentioned, kind of the camaraderie is something that I really loved and will really miss.
I'm Allison. I'm an economics major, and my thesis was on measuring quality in college football players. So I designed a model to convert their rank scores into a more accurate measure of quality, and then seeing if college coaches develop players after that. After this, I will be going to New York to be a private equity analyst at Aquiline. And my favorite memory, it was very hard for me to pick. I had lots of, bus rides and rainy games and things like that to pick from, but I actually think it was this year, and nothing in particular, but all of our inter-squad scrimmages. I've never gotten to play and feel so much of a love for the game. There's nothing to compare to like losing the ball to your teammate and being so proud of them for having taken it from you, and then be like, okay, well now I have to get it back. But it's an incredible experience, and then also the amount, like the fans and the support that we got. I remember our first game, we were trying to figure out if we could even have fans. It ended up working out, and they came and they were rowdy as ever, and they also brought back some of the memories of some of those good games, like Mr. Ref, which I won't go into, but so that was my favorite thing.
Hello. Everyone is a really great public speaker here. Bear with me. My name is Haley. I am a psych major, neuro minor. My thesis was in a behavioral neuroendocrinology lab with Dr. Laura Bean. We looked at the role of estrogen fluctuations on serotonergic neuroplasticity and peripartum sleep disruption. So a lot of clinical implications for females going through pregnancy and sleep disruptions they might be experiencing. My plan for next year is I'm moving to Washington, D.C. to work at the National Institutes of Health and conduct clinical research in rehab medicine. So kind of mixing my love for science, neuroscience, and still doing something in athletics. And then my favorite memory, I think, is being able to go on spring break as a team every year. Specifically, last year we went to Virginia Beach and rented a beach house all together, and I got to live with underclassmen who I never would have gotten the opportunity to live with, especially based on COVID this year, since I live off campus now. But I remember we were riding the bus on our way to our last game, and we knew it would be our last game, and then it got canceled. And it was just crazy that our team could go from crying hysterically to laughing hysterically in like 30 seconds. And I think that just speaks volumes to how our team operates on a lot of different levels. But yeah, a lot of love on that bus ride and throughout this whole year.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brett. I played men's soccer here, and I'm a chemistry major with a concentration in biochemistry. My thesis was in peptide design, so we take these short peptides, about 10 amino acids long, and we attach these light harvesting molecules to them such that they can harvest solar energy and transfer the energy between them. What's really interesting about these peptide constructs is that they self-assemble on their own in solution into these really long supramolecular helices. And so I got to work on that with Karin these past couple of years. Really a lot of fun to be in lab with her. Next year, I'm going to be working at the NIH at the National Cancer Institute doing cancer research and clinical pharmacology. So we support all of the phase 1 and phase 2 cancer trials at the NIH. My favorite athletic memory was pretty easy for me. It was winning the conference championship back my sophomore year. I just remember my freshman year having all the seniors want to go out with a bang and win their third conference championship in a row. And I really bought into that feeling and how much they pushed us and how the team wanted to come together and win for them. And unfortunately, they didn't have as memorable of a season that they wanted to. And we didn't want to let our seniors down that year. And over the summer that year, I remember how much they pushed us and how much they talked about what it felt like to go out and be as a team and enjoy that moment together. And so we ended up playing against Franklin and Marshall that year at home. It was a close contest. And I just remember Nick Gianelli, for those of you guys who have seen him or haven't seen him play, fantastic player, really great guy in my opinion. But he was outside the box, and no doubt about it that he was going to finish the game off in overtime. I just remember seeing the alumni rush out into the field. I just remember having that sort of sense of relief, knowing that this group worked so hard together and we were going to let the seniors go out with what we felt they deserved. And F&M, they remembered it too. As a side, we somehow obtained a document of somebody on the F&M men's soccer team who wrote an essay about how they lost the conference championship game. They spelled all the names wrong, but it was, we have that saved somewhere else for safekeeping. But, yeah.
Hello, I'm Kaito. I play cricket here. I majored in mathematics and computer science. Both my thesis actually explored two different aspects of theoretical computer science using game theory. So my math thesis explored a game called the EF game, trying to prove an inexpressibility of certain mathematical properties in first-order logic. And for my computer science thesis, I explored the auction theory. Luckily enough, I didn't have to code, although I'm a comp sci major. I tried to find an equilibrium in repeated auction with multiple buyers. After my graduation, I'm going to go back to Japan. I'm going to work as a quantitative trader and a crypto market maker. So it's going to be very exciting. My favorite athletic memory here at Haverford is probably when the team went to London tour. It was a great experience because the team bonded a lot throughout the tour, but also personally, I was very happy to be the highest scorer in the tour in the last match of the game after scoring 44 runs. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Julia. I'm a biology major. And for my thesis, I was looking at an organism called Crithidia fasciculata. And Crithidia is a relative of other parasitic organisms that contribute to a number of neglected tropical diseases. But we study Crithidia because it's non-pathogenic to humans, so it's a lot more safer to work with. And all of these parasites, they adhere to the hindgut of insect vectors, and that's sort of how they make their way around. So I was investigating the adhesion mechanism of Crithidia and trying to see what interactions and proteins were at play in that adhesion process. Next year, I will be starting veterinary school at the University of Pennsylvania, and my favorite athletic memory, I'll be the annoying lacrosse girl who says our win over TCNJ, but that was mine. There's nothing better than like watching a team walk off the field and not take the game seriously, I think, and it seemed like they were doing that, so it was really fun to beat them and show them what we're about. So, and specifically, when the clock was running down, me and Haley were standing next to each other because we both play attack, so we were up at the restraining line, and we were literally looking at each other going, you know, is this really happening? Is this real life? Like, we can't wait to run and jump on Amelia, who's our goalie, and our defenders, you could, like, see the fire in their eyes, so that was really exciting.
Can we have one more round of applause for this great group of student athletes? It's absolutely one of my favorite moments in any given year is listening to what everyone's done and understanding some of what everyone's done in their thesis and hearing what they're going to do and their favorite memories. So thank you to all of you. Now I want to recognize this year's winner, Joe Weisberg. So one of the Ambler moments that really resonates with me to this day is back in 2016. And we had two men's lacrosse players who were among the 15 Ambler Scholar athletes. A little paraphrasing here, but one of them got up, and when he was talking about his favorite athletic memory at Haverford, and they had had some pretty impressive wins, so there were a lot to choose from. He said his favorite athletic memory was the fact that there were two men's lacrosse players representing their team at the Ambler Scholar Athlete Ceremony. And I just was amazed by that. That was awesome. And he was so proud to represent his teammates on this academic-based honor. And he looked forward. He said, we haven't had a men's lacrosse winner, and I want to look forward to the day that a men's lacrosse team member wins this award. So in the 5 years since that ceremony, we have had 3 men's lacrosse winners. So really impressive, and that individual left a legacy. So I hope maybe he's watching tonight. I'm sure he's going to hear it from his teammates. So congratulations to this year's men's lacrosse winner. And to speak on his behalf, I ask that we have David Harrington-Watt and Nick Taylor come up to talk about his academic and athletic accomplishments.
I'm not usually the sort of person to brag, but I do want to talk a little bit about my athletic accomplishments. You can't hear me. It's kind of like a fairy tale. In the late 1970s, Cal Berkeley recruited me for its crew team, and I didn't make the team. The end. Always cherished that failure. As that suggests, I'm a really, really old guy, like really old. And by the time I met Joe, I'd actually been teaching undergraduates for 35 years. And yet, almost immediately, I began to suspect that Joe might be the most brilliant student I ever worked with. And my suspicions were confirmed. He's just scary, scary, scary smart. Under the direction of Ariana Huberman, Joe wrote a very fine senior thesis for the Spanish department. It's called La Jerusalem Argentina, Movilidad y Memoria de Moses Villa. Ariana kind of always tears up when she hears me speak Spanish. She just weeps for what I've done to the language. And then under the direction of James Krippner, Joe also wrote a wonderful thesis for the history department. Its title is 3 Jews at a Time, a history of anti-Semitism and exclusion at Haverford College, 1887 to 1945. And now what I'm going to say is actually going to connect up quite directly with what Wendy said about the exclusion of women from the college. And, as you know, I'm sorry, it's a serious topic and a joyous time, but Haverford has a long history of discriminating against women and against black people from America and against black people from other parts of the world and people of color, and also against Roman Catholics and Jews. So through hours and hours of diligent research, what Joe demonstrated is that the way that Haverford discriminated against people who weren't Protestant Christians in the first half of the 20th century was not informal and ad hoc. It was a carefully arrived at decision. The president of Haverford College decided to impose a quota system, and the point of the quota system was to limit the number of Jews who could enroll here. And I think knowing that should affect the way we go forward as we think about becoming a more equitable and inclusive college. While at Haverford, Joe's also made major contributions to our understanding of Quaker history. He played a leading role in the development of a course called Ethical Struggles in Catastrophic Times, Quakers' Responses to the Holocaust. The readings for the course document that as Quakers were trying to respond to the rise of Nazism in the 1930s and 1940s, Quakers did a lot of things which I think from almost any perspective would have to be described as evil and stupid. And yet, as the readings for the course illustrate, partly through Joe's willingness to spend hours and hours in the archives, during the 1930s and 1940s, Quakers also acted heroically, and they played a role in keeping literally thousands of people from being sent to death camps. So it turns out that Quakers aren't just virtuous or evil. Like everyone else, they end up being complicated. There's more I'd like to say about Joe's academic achievements, but our time is short. So I just want to conclude by returning to where I started. I started by talking about what a brilliant human being Joe is. But I also want to stress that when I think of Joe, his brilliance is not really the first thing that comes to mind. I think of his readiness to embrace joy, his empathetic nature, his honesty, his rejection of sentimentality, his shunning of moral pretentiousness, his remarkable capacity for forming deep bonds of affection with people he has a lot in common with, and also his remarkable knack for forming deep bonds of connection with people who at first glance he does not seem to have a lot in common with. And most of all, I think of his willingness to use his gifts to aid the communities of which he is a part. So Joe is, to use an old Quaker term, which some of you may know, Joe is a Mensch. And in the long run, Menschlichkeit is a hell of a lot more important than brilliance. So I'm delighted to be able to honor Joe's accomplishments, but also who he is.
All right, so I'll try to be brief, but highlight some of my favorites with Joe. First, I would like to congratulate all the finalists in the room tonight. It's always very impressive to hear your many accomplishments and plans for the future. It's my honor to be able to share this evening with you. As some of you may know, I'm going into my 4th year at Haverford, and this is the second time I've had the opportunity to present this award. I think it's fair, before we get to this year's winner, I would like to highlight Ethan Donnellan and John Frost, our past and previous winners in Jack Soley in 2018, Ben Frost in 2019. As Wendy had mentioned, they truly paved the way for this year's winner and set the standard for academic excellence within our program. Congratulations, Joe. I'm excited for you to carry the torch as this year's Ambler Award winner. Joe and I have a different relationship. Due to his position as a goalie on our roster, we typically have some downtime in practice where it's just me and a handful of guys. Because of this, we get to know each other in a different way. Joe always brings a different level of energy and focus to practice. He almost always asked me what I thought of the latest hockey game, and he knew to text me whenever the Eagles lost or did something ridiculous to upset the entire fan base. I mention these things because rarely did Joe mention, anything about how busy he was academically. Being a double major in history and Spanish, I know this wasn't the case, but it speaks volumes about how Joe approached his work both on and off the field. If there were one phrase I would use to describe Joe, it would be fully committed. When he was on the lacrosse field, he was a constant competitor, engaged, energetic, and ready to do whatever the team needed in order for us to raise the competition on Swan Field. Academically, his accolades speak for themselves, and he's truly the epitome of a scholar athlete. To me, he is an example that it can be done and that it can be done well. To me, Joe's career shows the potential of any Haverford student athlete, and he will always be an example of academic and athletic excellence within our program. Congratulations, Joe.
Thank you. Are you going to speak? It's all you. Okay. No, thank you. Thank you, guys. So I'm going to start actually somewhere that I didn't plan to start, which is I want to fill in Wendy's story a little bit more. The student who spoke was Eric Caliendo, who was a goalie who wore number 6, my number. So I'm just saying the next guy that gets that jersey, there's pretty high expectations. Now that you guys have heard about me from David and Coach Taylor, thank you guys. I'm a little bit, I'm honored, but also I'm sorry to disappoint you guys now that you get to meet me. So I want to start by congratulating all the other winners. You know, this is not an easy place to go to school. This is not an easy place to be an athlete. And everybody that's been here tonight has just done an incredible job in both those aspects, getting themselves here, and a lot of the other teams, especially these guys in the corner, and those guys having a lot of success. So winning this award it's given me an opportunity to reflect on all the people who have influenced my trajectory at Haverford and made me the person I am today. So if you'll bear with me for a second, I'd just like to recognize some of them. I'll start with the fact that there's a lot of hardworking administrators here at Haverford in the athletic department, but also throughout the college, who really do a lot of work just to make our lives as students, as professors, a lot easier. In particular, I want to thank Jason Rash, who's in the back, for getting this together, and it's really great to be here with other people. So thank you, Jason. And I also want to thank Wendy Smith. For those of you who don't know, Wendy spent the last 30 years here at Haverford professionally, just dedicated to Haverford College athletics. And I still remember the first year athletic student orientation that Wendy gives every year in Stokes Auditorium, and sitting there and thinking, oh, wow, I'm a student athlete. I'm here, right? Now it's time to get into fall ball, and just feeling a sense of gratitude. And on top of that, Wendy, as a student here at Haverford, helped establish the college's first women's varsity soccer team. And so she's just been here and done so much, and always had student athletes' best interest in mind. And as we lose her at the end of this year, I know that her presence here on campus will be sorely missed. So I wanted to thank Wendy also. So as I think David alluded to, as a freshman, I had the good luck to connect with 3 faculty members who are sitting here who have really just helped me become the person I am, and I wouldn't have had the experience I had at Haverford without their undying support and guidance. You guys have heard from David, and as well as my thesis advisors, Professor James Krippner and Ariana Huberman, who are really, the faculty at Haverford are just really incredible people, and I couldn't think of going to school and having the opportunity to have learned from other people. You guys also heard from Coach Taylor, who Coach Taylor I'm amazed. I told this to Coach when we were talking, and I'm amazed with how he's kept our program and our team together through what may have been the toughest 15 months that a lacrosse program has ever seen. And our program, this was, I think, in my 4 years at Haverford, the tightest team we've had, and that's really, we owe it all to Coach. And he's also just one of the easiest coaches I've ever had the opportunity to play for. Just makes it easier to come to practice and be happy and ready to focus and play. And so with this, you'll notice I haven't talked about 2 groups. And I think both of the next 2 groups I'm going to talk about are people who have just helped promote a culture of excellence in me. The first one is my teammates, the fellas. Our informal captain, Anthony Vizzoni, gave on Saturday just one of the most moving speeches about what this team means. And I'm not going to try to recreate that because I can't. But this is the group that I've probably spent the most time with at Haverford. And this is a group that is incredibly competitive in everything we do, and it just creates, really a culture of excellence where everyone wants to do the best they can all the time. It's not an accident that John and Donnie are sitting right there. All 9 members of the class of 2021 on the Haverford College men's lacrosse team made the all-conference honor roll, and it's also not an accident that the Haverford College men's lacrosse team led all Centennial Conference teams in academic honor roll award winners. That includes Swarthmore College, in case you guys are wondering. And lastly, I want to thank my family, my mother, Jenna, my dad, Alan, my brothers, Aaron and Zach, and my girlfriend, Johanna, for just always supporting me and encouraging me to do what I'm doing, even when it doesn't quite seem to make sense. And lastly, there's one more person we're honoring today, and Wendy Smith talked a little bit about him beforehand, but the namesake of this award ceremony, Bill Ambler. For those of you who don't know anything about him, there's a quick bio in the program, but he was a Haverford College alumnus, the assistant dean of admissions from 1956 to 65, and the dean of admissions from 1965 to 1987. And I was emailing back and forth with a member of the class of 1969 on something totally unrelated, and unprovoked, he shared a story with me that I'd like to share with you all today. He said, "I believe that the class of 1969 was the first at Haverford to have been selected by William Ambler. He met with us during freshman orientation week. I remember him saying to us, 'A time may come when you wonder whether you belong here at Haverford. If you find that happening, I hope you come and see me. I have a special reason for having admitted each member of this class, and I am willing to share that with you.'" The gentleman I was emailing with, this was literally yesterday, says he always remembered Bill Ambler saying that. So I want to close by reminding everyone that academic success, it's just one part of our Haverford education. I hope that the honor that we've received today to be named Ambler Scholars, and for the advisors and for the coaches to see their influence on all these student athletes recognized, will also remind us that we have the power to make the communities we inhabit welcoming spaces for everyone, for all of our teammates, our coaches, our colleagues, and our friends. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Joe. And that was a great way to add in Bill Ambler and the recollection there. So, way to go. So thank you for joining us tonight to honor the ultimate in Haverford athletics, the pinnacle of academic and athletic excellence. And thank you to all the faculty, the deans, the coaches, the athletic support staff, teammates, and others throughout the college who have helped our student athletes achieve their goals. It truly does take a village. So thank you to our student athletes, especially for all of your commitment, dedication, sacrifice, perseverance, and especially this year, your passion and your selflessness. You are the reason we are all here. So thank you for being you, and thank you for your pursuit of excellence. Seniors, congratulations. Congratulations on being scholar athletes. Have a great rest of your senior week, and have a great graduation. Good luck. Thank you, everyone. And we need one group picture. So if all the honorees can come in front of the curtain down there, we're going to get a great group Ambler picture. Thank you. And on your way out, don't forget to pick up your dessert.